And it says that we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is Amanda Kunkel, your universe liaison. And oh my goodness, because my tile, I have it with my video off. You can just see the glorious and gorgeous Susan Gluscia. So as this comes up, it's going to be looking like Susan is speaking to herself, but I swear I am there. Oh, give me 1 minute. Looks like it says we have a live stream that has ended. Try this once again. Perfect. You gotta love, as we are ending one cycle of a month and coming into a powerful month, how the technology can agree or not agree on so many levels. And so that being said, this is the perfect chance to, if you already don't know Susan, she is the money mastery coach who I have known, oh gosh, I've been colleagues with, I think it's been at least 3 years at this point. I was thinking about that last night. I was like, we've known each other quite a long time now and have had so many wonderful overlappings. Susan helps women own their money story, but she's also bringing something super exciting to share with you about this specific year and the exponential areas for your growth for this year. So I'm going to go ahead and just hand this over to Susan, and she's highlighted anyway. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and play in your space. I love collaborating with women just like you and bringing messages of abundant money to their world and their tribe. So thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I don't even know how long it's been since we've known each other, at least 3 years, but probably longer, because kind of like, blink and it all flashes. Plus also that we had the pandemic in there that had an effect as well. So, but however long it's been, it's or maybe it's been shorter and it just feels like, because we've done so much together, it feels longer. Whichever the case, it is a pleasure to be here with you and your tribe. So yes, I am a money master coach and I help fempreneurs and business leaders kind of, get more money in the bank, right? So you have prosperity and abundance there, right? But we do make it all about the money because you can't know what level to serve people at unless you're clear first what the money is, right? Like what money you want, and then you kind of have to claim it and reverse engineer the level of service required to have in exchange for the money, for commensurate money, right? Well, I've made a signature discovery that there are these 7 energetic levels. I call them the 7 money realities. And regardless of which one you're in, there's always a way to get to or expand into the next one. They are the 7 energetic levels of money consciousness. And so everybody knows everything is energy, right? And so is money. And therefore, you get to be a frequency match to the money that you desire, right? And that's where my work focuses. And this year being an 8-year, right? 2024 added together is an 8-year, and flipped on its side, 8 is infinity, right? So we're in a very prosperous year in 2024. And which also speaks to collaborations, right? So there's this exponentiality, right? Not only for prosperity and wealth, but for that collaboration, right? Like there are many of us coming together in a focused, sincere effort to raise the consciousness of the world together, right? To transform and transmute and impact and elevate the collective consciousness, right? That also applies to money consciousness. And I'm personally on a mission to raise the money consciousness of the world so you experience prosperity, right? And in that effort, I have been interviewing about 150 women business leaders in the past year and a half. And what they tell me that is really, really important about money to them, because we don't want the money, right, Amanda? We want what the money enables us to be, do, and have,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So we don't want the money, but what's the most important thing about money? To most of these women, it's financial security, right? So I realize that there's some work to be done around owning your money story, right? So because you can't make a change unless you own it, right? So what does that mean, right? Well, first, if you actually, what's required is to raise your consciousness about your own money situation,
Mhm.
right? And to
Absolutely.
become aware if you have any, what I call money resistance cropping up,
Mhm.
right? And if you do, you just merely own that, right? Like, oh, I see, I'm telling myself I can't afford it, or I don't have the money, or I can't possibly make more money, or I don't want to share about like the money that I'm making or not making, right?
Yeah.
So those are all aspects of money resistance. Let me ask you, Amanda, how do you find money resistance or that kind of concept showing up in your work?
Oh, it's quite interesting. And it has been the same no matter who I work with, what level of business that they're at. The very first things out of their mouth would be, I don't have enough time for whatever it is, whether it's to work with me or to do the work that goes deeper with myself or anyone else. And then the second one is and then I don't have the money. And
Mhm.
the very interesting thing is the resistance piece comes in because we're not talking about women that are literally on their last dollar, right? None of us would take somebody's first or last dollar, right? We're talking about women that are already in the multiple six figures realm that are asking for more and for more expansion. And then instead of claiming their own internal shrink back, they're using an outside factor such as
Mhm.
money and time, because they're so intricately connected, as a place of stopping themselves, not moving forward.
Mhm. And I know in your work, because I have worked with you to expand my own inner innate intuition, right?
Mhm.
Which was a fantastic experience, and I highly recommend it to anybody. But yes, that like even in so once you've cracked 170K per year, believe it or not, personal income, this is not business revenue, personal income. And PS, not enough of us are paying ourselves like our commensurate value out
Correct.
of our business, right?
Correct.
So fix
Yes.
that first. Uh-huh. And then once you're at the 170K plus, you're actually now in the top 10% of American earners,
Yes.
US earners, right? It's not really a high bar to pass when you think about it.
Mhm.
And once you do, then what, right? So at every new level, there's money resistance can crop up, right?
Yes.
And it's like an onion. You're always peeling it back and discovering like, oh, right, I think I thought I cleared that already, or released that, or healed that.
Yes.
And then this is the next level of the thing coming up, right? This is the
Absolutely.
human condition. We're only asked to heal what's right in front of us. We don't go 5 steps ahead, right? We and then
Mhm.
we get there, and then there's the next thing, right? So there's
Yes.
always, right, that requirement to if we want a better tomorrow than today, then that's what's required, right? It's just the
And
way it works.
I love what you just said there, sort of like the layers of the onion, where you're like, oh, wait, I thought I already dealt with this thing or healed this thing, moved this thing, whatever, right? Each person's language is. Something that I can see creeping up too. I don't know if you see it from the financial end, but I see it in the energetic end, which is well, it's analogous to this thing that I went through a couple years ago. Even though I was at a different level, I'm going to do it myself. It's the DIY version. I'm going to do what I did back then to fix it now. But it's like taking an Allen wrench when you need a jackhammer now, or Not that you have to jackhammer anything away. You're completely different tools because you're at a different point, and the person really, and it's just that stopping point, really firmly believes that they can do it themselves, not realizing that they're in this glorious, wonderful position of having moved so much further ahead that their do-it-yourself tools from 2 years ago are no longer going to be effective. Do you see that as well?
It's interesting. So many of us play golf. Those of us who play golf will understand the concept of a swing coach, right? So even somebody as accomplished as a Tiger Woods, only in his game I'm talking about, right, still has a swing coach, right? Because and then as you like, I'm reading The Talent Code, which is an interesting book from 2009. Somebody just brought it into my world, by Daniel Coyle. And he talks about like the white matter in our brains being the way that that talent is not born, it's actually made, it's created. You can
Yeah.
learn to be a talented person. And there's that 10-year, 10,000 hours, right, of the tipping point that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. That's why, because the more we practice, deep practice too, can actually condense years of practice into a shorter time. So maybe we're not talking 10 years now, we're talking more like 5 years potentially,
Right.
right? And that's the case with evolution. Like we tend to compact, right? Like what used to take decades doesn't anymore, right? And it's the same with human evolution in terms of consciousness. We're living multiple lives in one lifetime these days, right? And
Mhm.
so it's true with our money. There's always that next level of money to attain, up to the point of, so in my 7 levels, the highest, if you will, level is called enlightened gratitude. Because so Sir David Hawkins talks in Power versus Force, right? He created the map of human consciousness where 0 is death and 1,000 is enlightenment, but
Yeah.
that's not a physical state. That's 40 plus territory, right?
Right.
So if we're at shame, which is 25, that's the closest to death. That's why it feels so slow and dense and not good, right?
Right.
When you're feeling shame, because you're actually resonating the closest to death. It's like you want to crawl under a
Mhm.
rock and literally die, right? That's the feeling of shame, right?
And yes, and how sad is it that shame is not innate, it's person to person created.
Yeah, right. So then you have on the upper end, right, of gratitude being 900, which is the highest vibrational frequency we can embody, right?
Mhm.
Then you have, in that state, you have the ability to focus on your purpose, and the money just exponentially comes into your bank account. And then
Yeah.
you have all the other levels between there, right? If you're in the first level, which I call deficient absence, you're attracting unpreferred circumstances,
Yes.
right? Because we're always in attraction, whether we're aware of it or not. Everybody knows that, right? And it's just a matter, are you attracting what you want, right? The preferred circumstances or the unpreferred? In the first 2 money levels, you're in the world of attracting the unpreferred. You're having an abundance of time on your calendar versus an abundance of money in the bank or clients to see and so forth, right?
Yes.
And then once you get into 3 and above, you're in the vibrational space of courage, which is a pivotal point into now the money giving energy space, right?
Yes.
And so the purpose of, like, when you were saying, like, we were talking about focusing on your purpose, right? So you can always, the quantum leap I tell everybody is, and we're talking about how to own your money story, but also how to elevate your capacity and your ability to magnetize, create, and attract more money to you and your bank account
Yes.
to be, do, and have whatever you want, right? So then all you need to remember is you can pivot into gratitude. And the way to do that, it's actually interesting. It's not a platitude, right? It's a true exploration of, in any moment, what can I be grateful? What's the little thing that I can be grateful for in this moment? whether you have unpreferred or preferred circumstances coming in, you identify whatever it is. So let's say a client does, wiggles out on you or something, or like they're so what's coming up a lot is agreement in my space, right? So we'll talk about agreements and contracts and things, right?
Yeah.
So they're pushing back on the contract or the agreement, or they're reversing their decision, or whatever it is. You can express gratitude for that unpreferred circumstance and say better is on its way. And it
Yeah.
totally neutralizes, if you will, it transmutes that not positive energy into openness
Yeah.
towards the positive.
The hinge
And
on the door.
gratitude does that. It's an expansion. It's the highest frequency we can embody. So you're stepping into that, and imagine how much more attractive and generative that is versus the slower, denser energies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And having that wonderful, like, little hinge on a door that is now like greased or oiled, so to speak. Yes. And it's able to just
Mhm.
easily swing open and close. But you know those, oh gosh, what are they called? The doors that don't actually open or close, they just swing back and forth. There is no open or closed state. It is just in constant momentum. And that's like
Mhm.
that gratitude beingness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very expansive state, right? Same thing being in love, right? So love is 500 on the scale versus courage is 300.
Hmm.
So love, courage is the pivotal one. That's actually the halfway point, because it's not linear, right? It's exponential. So as you get up in the levels, you're getting lighter and more expansive, right? Therefore, it's more attractive, right?
Yeah.
It's so think of that, those tuning forks, right? You have a tuning fork at a certain megahertz and you have another one. But if the other one is not a frequency match to the first one, when you ping that second one, it won't have an effect on the first one. You have to have
Yeah.
two that are in the same megahertz field, right, realm, that are
Yep.
a match for each other for you. So it's the same thing with you, right? So you being at gratitude are now going to be in a resonant attraction field for the higher, if you will, more expanded state of money.
Yes.
That's the one, that enlightened gratitude is what I call peak money consciousness, right? Where you don't focus on the money actually. You actually focus on your purpose, and you step into service like
Yes.
24/7 pretty much, right? Like
Yes.
you're just expressing, you're in your fullest level of self-expression and self-actualization, and the commensurate money comes into your bank account, right?
Exactly.
And more, and you're generating more and more, and like collaborations, like we were talking about before we started. I thought to myself last week, yeah, I should probably I'd love to be more visible. And boom, I had within 48 hours, I had 4 invitations, separate, distinct opportunities to be visible, including this one. So again, thank you for answering the call.
You are so welcome, and you are getting that call pinging out everywhere because as I went to send you the Zoom link today, I opened my messenger and had two invitations sitting in there with exact dates, and I went, ah, hey Susan. So even that, like, thank you. You're magnetizing me over here. Hello, because of collaboration, right?
Yeah,
Collaboration.
it's exponential, right? It's the same thing as like, so when you coach one-on-one versus group, like when in a group, because there are more people involved, the learning is exponential. People
Yes.
actually miss that in group versus one-on-one, but one-on-one you can go deeper faster, but
Yes.
it's not as exponential. It's way more exponential in a group dynamic. So that's why I've been very focused in the last couple of years of doing less group and more one-on-one, because that was being called for from the people I serve. And this year I've added more collaborations and actually doing a group retreat event actually coming up in early April with
Yeah.
another
What?
collaborator.
Yes, I want to hear more
Yeah.
about that
So,
too, by the way.
yeah. Well, that is actually helping people women step
Yeah.
into owning their story so that you can transform your relationship with money, i.e., elevate
Mm-hmm.
it and your financial frequency, and fully step into whatever your next level is with money,
Yeah.
right? And many women like to focus on their impact, right? And yes, that's important. And that actually comes along for the ride because you can't make the money without the impact. But that's actually one point of money resistance I see a lot with women is that we have been taught that it's more honorable to seek the impact,
Yeah.
right, piece and to serve. But a lot of times when we're only focused on that, we wind up giving away our value. And
Absolutely.
that doesn't serve anybody, right? So let's all remember what's in your highest and greatest good is in everyone's highest and greatest good. And we're all
Absolutely.
equal being divine beings having a human experience, right? Course of Miracles. So therefore, what's required is honoring self and others equally. So it getting clear on your value, right? And the value that you're giving to your clients, both immediate and lifelong,
Yes.
which is usually more vast than we actually conceptualize initially. And also being aware of like how you be on a regular, right? So your frequency on the daily. And you can do an energy audit if you're not aware of that yet. Some of us have done that in the past. What's mastery? But repeating the fundamentals over time. So if it's been a while and you kind of aren't sure, like you think you're in high vibe, but you're not really sure and you want to verify, you can do an energy audit periodically throughout the day. What time is it? What activity or what was I involved with doing? And then what was my energetic state or state of consciousness? And then at the end of the day, look back. And what you'll do is you'll increase your awareness, which is the way we change our behavior. Because
Absolutely.
then what you'll find is you're going to be stepping in the next days after that audit, you'll step into more and more work of or expression that makes you, that fills you up, that is joyful, that is fulfilling, right? And so to help people do that, that's part of the curriculum of this retreat that I have going on with Mega Bradley, who is an awesome coach in her own right. She offers a lot of healing modalities that I don't bring to the table. Her focus is abundance and prosperity, and improving your relationship to your creator. And mine is all about the money. So we have
Yep.
joined forces, right, to help people elevate that through our retreat experience. And it's going to be a lot of fun and it's in the Sedona of the Northeast, which is Asheville, North Carolina, in the first week of April.
Beautiful.
So excited. Yeah. It's you can transform in the comfort of mountain luxury, right? So
Mhm.
the Blue Ridge Mountains are known for their blue hue, right? Like if you look at
Yeah.
pictures of them, and there's something about those mountains that's very, very spiritual. So the space, the geographical setting, and the luxury housing that we've arranged it kind of conspires to set the setting for the work that we'll walk people through. And it's not a jam-packed agenda. There's a lot of time for, rest and connecting and bathing in nature and having, integration time. And so it's a 5-day retreat and there's an optional 6th day. And in that 6th day, I'm walking people through the top 3 ways to the money that they desire, whatever the next
Ooh.
money level
I
they
love
like.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. You're like, so
Yeah.
please come to the 6th day because it's going to be fabulous. I love that. Well, and actually, as you're speaking, all I can like feel in my body as you're talking about the setup, the structure, and what you're going over is it in and of itself is this very collaborative, right? It's this opening. It's this um, forward frequency shifting together versus so many retreats where everything is so structured. It's in a very masculine box where you're almost forced to, by the end of a certain hour segment, like on to the next thing. So I love the frequency resonance of the retreat itself as you're speaking into it. Thank you for
Well,
sharing.
and here's what I have discovered that, like, multi six-figure business women, they don't want the structure, to your point of it being masculine, although
Right.
we want people to be integrated, right? But there has been such a focus on the masculine that when you go to retreat and
Mhm.
for transformation, this is a transformation retreat, which is different from, like, say, an experiential
Yes.
retreat. Like, this is different. So there is work we do, but we do it in a flowing, easy, right?
Got
Like
it.
kind of assimilation way,
Mhm.
right? Where you land gently into the through the transformation, right? Because you get to have it be easy, right?
Yeah.
And the right, we kind of, once you're into the multi six figure territory, there is an element of, you actually don't have to have it all planned out. You can show up, right? And the
Yeah.
magic unfolds. So there's that element built into our time together, which is really going to be a lot of fun.
And it feels, as you're talking to this flow, all I could feel was like water, a gentle stream. And of course, I said, and that's entirely Susan. I
That
love
is, I'm
that.
so into the water. Yeah. And true with money, right? Money does not like to stagnate. Money
No,
likes to be in flow. And it loves to get exponential in the flow. So it's a fun element to bring in.
absolutely. I absolutely enjoy that so much. And thank you for sharing about that as well as we're here talking, because these collaboration opportunities, whether it's a retreat, right? Or
Mhm.
going and having this ping someone's mind that's listening that is like, oh, I've been wanting to reach out to so and so to collaborate. I just haven't gotten around to it. Well, grab your phone, darling, or grab your internet and just type it out, right? Everyone is literally, as Susan and I just spoke into, feeling the call. And so it will be generously reciprocated. So it's
Yeah.
okay, right? Leader to leader, it's okay if sometimes you go, that can I really reach out to that person? Yes, yes, you can. Sometimes our brains will do that too, but remember, they are feeling it as well. Oh, go ahead. I see there's something going in your mind there. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
Susan.
As this happens all the time with us, but like I mentioned that the talent code, right, book that I'm reading, so he actually says it's the failure that is where we learn through. So I've been inviting my clients to strive to fail, because I find that
Ah,
that pivots them out of the resistance to the action, right? And
right.
nothing happen. You have to have action, right? So because that's where we actually learn. When you are learning a new piece of music and you're going and going, right? And the first note that you strike that's not correct, you go back and like
Yep.
relearn now you've actually strengthened that neurological pathway in a way that helps the white matter actually build better around that pathway, therefore making you more skilled. That's how we build talent, actually. So that's how you get better at your craft, is by seeking failure at the edge of your capabilities.
I love that. And I love how the universe has not just with myself, but with a couple of like highest level leaders recently, given them some downloads that they've raised their eyebrows and gone, say what? You want me to do what? One of them I did share in a post was, um, it's not to focus on your money capacity in your bank account. You need to go out and go take airplane flying lessons. Don't think about,
Right,
like,
I saw
don't
that.
dig into, well, how am I going to expand my capacity? Because what you're going to do is you're going to spin your wheel. Where if you're put in this situation, right, you're kind of basically making life or death decisions. But You go through a paper test, you learn, they're not actually just throwing you up there in an airplane by them yourself. You come to strengthen. So I love what you're talking about. It's this white matter, right? You're coming to strengthen your own your talent, but also that like confidence, right? Because your confidence just
Yeah.
goes exponentially.
And they're transferable skills, right? So as you expand on one, to your point of like learning how to fly an airplane,
Yes.
you other like it elevates your other areas of self-expression as well. And learning languages, learning a new language as well is one of those, right? Yeah.
Yes, and there's so many wonderful fun people are all with it, but there's some app that everyone's always talking about these days that you can just like learn as you go daily, just a couple minutes. And so, and that's the case. There's really like, hey, you actually have the time. Like you can't resist that one. You actually have the time. It's there. It's on your phone. It's on an app, right? Go do it, girl.
Yep, totally.
Yes.
So, yeah, so what else can we talk about in the land of getting more money into your bank account, right? What I have been, in addition to agreement, what I have been finding is like judgment has been coming up a lot. So I want to give people
Mm,
a tool for pivoting out of judgment, right? Because all judgment is self-judgment in the end,
right.
right? And the fear of judgment as well, right? To get out of that, you can pivot into curiosity, right? So curiosity is a wonderful tool because you get to be curious about anything,
Yes.
right? We can be curious, and curiosity kind of helps make us more like childlike, right? So there's no judgment in curiosity, right? So
Yep.
you get to be curious about anything and everything, and it pivots you out of judgment, which is it's a wonderful space opener, if you will, right? And
Absolutely.
the question, I have a couple of favorite questions. What the topper is, you ask, because the judgment is coming from your ego brain, right? And
Yeah.
then you can ask your ego brain, is there evidence to the contrary? So like, so and so's like, I'm afraid like to be called out as a, I'm not confident enough to like stand up and get on my soapbox, right? Or whatever the
Mhm.
case is. Well,
Mhm.
is there evidence to the contrary? And you will have whiplash from how fast your ego brain will totally state the opposite of what it just previously stated, right?
Yes.
So it will all of a sudden come out with, all of this contradictory evidence that actually supports like the reason that you don't have to fear judgment, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
And if you look for it, you're going to find it. And it goes both ways.
absolutely. Yeah.
It goes
Hmm.
both ways. I love your mug, by the way. For those of you that don't know, Susan is a
That's
mug
my cup of
person.
gratitude.
Your cup of gratitude. And she sent me a gigantic pumpkin themed mug this fall. Fall is my like favorite time of the year. And I still use it. It's the perfect mug. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, we retired our pumpkin ones because we're seasonal, but this one's gonna be an all. I use this every day now. Ever since a friend of mine gifted it to me, and it just reminds me to stay in gratitude. So I drink from the cup of gratitude every day.
I love that, right? I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, do you sit it out under the full moon? Now we're gonna tease you and see how witchy you get.
Oh, somebody just called me a witch yesterday.
Oh, really?
I said, well, you can call me a money witch. I'm comfortable with that.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I see the Halloween costume
In a
now. It's
good way,
fantastic.
always in a good way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, sorry, going back, I know I took us down a little side ramp there. We were talking about the judgment and the looking at the guilt or the fear, and then asking the brain for evidence to contrary.
Yeah. And so when you pivot into curiosity you're pivoting out of the judgment into curiosity, it's amazing, right? The shift in perspective that you can have. And as one of the podcasters who I will be featured on shortly,
Ooh,
John Burton said, it's not what you see, it's how you look, right?
right.
So that's a pretty cool um kind of statement about what we're talking about, is how to shift your perspective so you can open yourself up for whatever the thing is, the next thing, right? And because we can't move forward without that pivot and expansion in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I said to one of my group clients, I think it was yesterday, she had messaged me and was saying where she had gotten right her intuitive download about where there's sort of, she called it a fence, right? And asked for, right, the universe's feedback. And I said, but what if there was just no fence to begin with,
Mhm.
right? And that's part of that perception shift. They're erasing the
Yeah.
fact that there could ever be a fence between you and your desires. So I love that. Of course.
Right. It's like the universe would never allow you to have a desire in your heart without the way already being present. It is not that
Exactly.
cruel, right? Like it wants you to have what you want even more than you want to have it. This is why I love to energize truth with a capital T. And by truth, I mean all the universal laws, right?
Yes.
Over circumstance. Because circumstance is what we see with our human five senses. And we assume it's reality. We accept it as reality. And yet, right, there's
Right.
the truth, right? With a capital T. So I invite everybody listening to pivot into curiosity about what would it take for you to energize truth over circumstances moving forward, right? Because that's a big game changer.
I am typing some of these wonderful truth bombs, by the way, into the chat as you are speaking.
Okay, cool.
That's where some of the pause for me is. You said, what would it take for you to energize truth over, what was it, circumstance?
Circumstance. Yeah. Because when
Absolutely.
you yeah, it's a big shift, right? It's a small lever that gives you a big shift, right?
Yes.
You were talking about the hinge before,
Yes.
right? I love points of leverage, right? Because a lever allows you to go farther with less effort, right? One of the laws of the universe that I love, and this is from Deepak Chopra's primer, is
Mhm.
the law of least effort,
Yes.
right? When I say you get to have it be easy, that's what I'm talking about. Human mind wants to make it hard because
Mhm.
it validates, right? And it makes you worthy. And right, like this is what we've been taught. We have to work hard for the money and all of that stuff, right? No. I mean, yes, but and no, right? That not necessarily, right? So when
Right.
you pivot out of, and there's two ways of money creation that I've discovered. One that I lovingly call ego earning. That's the land of 3 + 3 + 3, right? Where
Right.
to have more money, I need to work harder longer. I need to work hard for my money. I need to exchange my time for money. I need to add to my savings, my retirement, whatever, right? To have wealth. The other way, which I personally recommend and prefer, is exponential receiving, what I call
Yes.
exponential receiving. This is the land of 3 × 3 × 3, where you step into exchanging your value for money, right? For
Yes.
commensurate money. And I always like to invite people who are exploring these two states of money creation to think of, because ego earning really is the land of middle class mindset, which is about
Yes.
85%-ish of us, if not 90% right now, of us. And I'm talking about primarily America right now.
Yes.
But it does apply to the globe. It's it's the it's a very limited, because you're going to run out of time, right? There's only so much time that you can exchange for the money. So there's a cap on that. Moving
Yes.
over to the value side, right? Exchanging the value for the money. That then, to help you think about that, think of patents, think of
Mhm.
royalties, right? Like
Yeah.
in the music industry, or, geniuses who create these, inventions and then have a patent, and people who want to use the idea or the invention have to pay for the right to use it, right?
Yes.
That's value created one time, and then it's available for sale, if you will, over, multiple times, right?
Yes.
You can actually set your business up like that as well.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about also the shift there is the other model. It's not just about time, but it's also about physical and mental health. As right, that
Yep.
that will run out, especially if you aren't quote unquote meeting the ego's needs with that, or what your peer group tells you you should, right? And then we go back to the cycle we talked about with the guilt and the shame and everything, where it's just completely not even going on that on ramp with what you're
Right.
switching into
Right.
now, right? The patents, the royalty.
Yeah. It's pretty cool to see people shift. And then always what happens is, they're on training wheels, right? And so they require support and accountability
Mhm.
to actually kind of, get that white matter to, right, to wrap around those new skills, right? And solidify them, right? So there's the initial transformation, and then there's the longer term, like staying in the room for the long term, because you don't want to have a transformation, right? And then it's like a flash in a pan kind of thing, right? Where it's
Yes,
like a one time or a short duration. And then because your other habits are so ingrained and well worn, at the first sign of stress or something not working out, exactly perfectly, you revert back to those habits, right? New
yeah,
habits do take time and effort to form. And usually it's really helpful to get support and accountability around that for the longer term. And I'm
yeah,
speaking to that because I know you and I both offer those longer term ways of having that support with us once you get that initial, whatever that initial transformation
yeah.
is, right? And so that you can have the training wheels there to even out any wobbles going
Yes.
forward.
And I love my brain very lovingly went to, hey, Amanda, think back to when you learned the any sort of sales conversation or any sort of sales technique. I think I was like 17 working retail, right? But then I had to
Yep.
learn when I graduated from retail and was in worked for Kaplan Test Prep and Admission, was a whole different type of sales conversation. And then when I came into the online business entrepreneurial world, right? And each year it shifts a little bit. I have to keep, even though I have the very basic skills, I still have to go shine up, keep them clean, keep them open, so to say, so to speak, as well, so that I'm constantly in the vibe of being of that highest service. And I can't have that if I'm not constantly tuning up. So I love that my brain shared that for everyone here as a
Yep.
real life example of the why.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Absolutely. And so yeah, I invite anybody who wants more information on my retreat to go to mysticmoneymastery.com. There's more information there. And we have an early bird that expires in a week from today. So and
Ooh.
it's a really awesome initial retreat offering investment level. So we're really excited we have some seats that have started to sell. So we're just really opening it now to more people who want that transformation of, like, you're giving of yourself to your clientele, and you want to experience that in return for yourself, right? In a
Yes.
5-day transformational luxury experience, and with like-minded and spirited and hearted other fempreneurs. So
Absolutely.
it's really cool.
Thank you so much. And when we are finished here, would you be able to provide that link in the comments? So,
Yep.
yep. And please also feel free to link your business page or personal page so that everybody can have easy access to it. I will be manning the chat over the next 24 hours. So if you watch this on replay, as we know, our one colleague Marta so gorgeously has been posting around that she would. Please comment and we will answer any questions, dive in a little bit with you. And Susan, before we start
Yeah.
wrapping up, what was there anything else that you wanted to share?
Well, I know that we talked a little bit about the agreements, right? Like, so
Yeah,
holding to your agreement, right? Like, if you
yeah.
don't hold to your agreement, right, you can't expect your clients to hold to their agreements, right?
Hmm.
And also, not holding to your agreements, right? Not upholding your agreements is extremely detrimental to the money generation and
Sure.
prosperity and abundance and right and attraction that we're talking about. So again, what's in your highest and greatest good is in everyone's. So right, mind, do you first, and everybody let everybody else do them, right?
Yeah.
And so I have learned through the school of hard knocks how to be a person whose word is their bond,
Yes.
right? And I verbal agreements, written agreements for me are one and the same now. In the past, right? Maybe I took a little bit of kind of flexibility towards the verbal versus the written, but
Okay.
and I have multiple contracts going on in my life, right? Because I have two
Yes.
businesses,
Yes.
I
Your two
have
businesses. Yep.
clients in both. Yep. And so if I have a long-term agreement, I actually reread it. Right? So that I
Keep it fresh.
reconnect to the commitment that
Yep.
that represents, right? So that helps me be more honorable to my commitments, right? And by holding that standard, I'm able to hold unwavering space for my clients and their clients to be, take the honorable path of honoring your word. Now, now women are not taught how to renegotiate. So I'm just going to drop this in here. If you have a challenge with an agreement, whether that's agreement with spouse or partner, or a work-related one or a business-related one, or even a personal one with self, right? They come in
Yeah.
all forms. You can just realize that if you have something that has changed, right? A situation, a circumstance that you don't control, but now affects your ability to uphold that
Yes.
agreement,
Yes.
you have the responsibility and the right to go back to the person with whom you have that agreement and seek, if they are,
Sure.
if they're willing, seek to renegotiate that agreement.
Sure.
I've
Just being
had I've
very
had
upfront. Yep.
yeah, very upfront and have open communication about it. You can't just send somebody a text like, hey, I'm not gonna, I've changed my mind. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
doesn't work. That really doesn't work, right?
Right. Well, and
Because
that's
you wouldn't want people doing that to you as well, right?
and it's not
So just
professional. It's
right, exactly. It's
it,
not.
it's
And
not professional.
yeah,
And,
correct. And so I do find that, again, women seem to uphold agreements relating to their family really, really well,
uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
And allow those agreements, they actually take priority in a woman's life more than for a man, I have found.
Yes.
And so I'm just, kind of coming in here gently encouraging women to just take a look at that because yes, family is very, very important. And yes, there are urgent and emergency situations that do
Sure.
crop up that require our shifting and things like that. But if it's happening to you on the regular, you might want to look at that, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you're showing up as a professional, that has some requirement of managing things, right, in a professional manner all around, right?
Yeah.
Including your agreements.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
it's entirely fine as well if a woman or a man says, well, I can't make this agreement or engage in this now because my family is going to always be the priority. And I know that at this
Correct.
point. And like that's being upfront, honest, and professional.
Right. And I've experienced coaches who have promised, if you will, like, agreed something. And then right before that was going to be delivered, changed because, you know, they got a download that they
Hmm.
need to shift. Well,
Hmm.
deliver that, then do the next thing. Don't don't
Yes.
make it super fluid, right? Because then you're only in the feminine. You need to have an
Yeah.
integration of the feminine and masculine, right?
Yes. Yes. And if you're unable to do that, I've seen coaches then offer a refund and a referral. I know this is other thing is the thing you wanted. I just got this download. I can't carry through. However, here's a refund and a referral because I want you to get what you need, even if it's not me. I've seen that. I've not had to do that, but I've seen that, and it makes me just have so much more respect for those coaches as
That's
people and
exactly
professionally in general. Yes.
right. Because if you, again, if you break an agreement and you don't properly renegotiate it, it
Yeah.
is very detrimental to, right? I know that that coach lost business because of how that coach handled that
Yeah.
situation
Right.
for herself.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
feel you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As
So own
always.
your story, take
Yes.
ownership, right? Own your story, take ownership. If you need help with that, come PM me or talk to Amanda, right? You want to professionally uphold your agreements or renegotiate them with full on upfront communication, right? It's a two-way
Yeah.
street. And keep your energy elevated. I like to call it your financial frequency, right? So elevate your financial frequency. And again, if you need any help doing that, you know where to find us.
I love it. And thank you so much for being here with everyone and loving on everyone. I absolutely adore introducing all my peeps to you because you're just amazing in general, plus a master money coach. So we're just putting that out there just like that. It was wonderful having you here today, Susan, and sending everybody so much love, even though I'm off camera at the moment. And we will speak to each other soon.
Thanks so much.
And bye.